Hello friends, welcome to the course on institutional management and administration. Friends, in the previous session we have dealt with one of the most important aspects of institutional management, that is planning. As we understand, without a successful plan, no institution can grow. We have tried to understand the importance of planning in today's scenario in an educational institution. We have also tried to understand the process of planning, steps of planning, and the basic principles of planning in the previous session. In this session, we will be dealing with the two important types of planning which are needed in any educational institution. Before implementation of these two types of planning, let's revise what exactly is planning. Planning is basically a course of action and deciding in advance what is to be done, why it is to be done, when it is to be done, where it is to be done, who is to do it, and how to do it. 5W1H. For implementation of any planning process, there are basically two types of plans. These two types of plans are strategic plan and operational plan. Strategic plan basically applies to entire organization. It establishes institutional overall goals and seeks to position the institution in terms of its environment, and basically it is broad term and long term. It is mainly for single use. Strategic plan once made cannot be used for again and again. On the other hand, the second type of plan, which is called operational plan, which is specific and has to be dealt in terms of the overall goals of the organization. It is short term and it is a standing plan which is implemented in and day out, means it is a routine plan which is needed for the implementation of any strategic plan. So two types of plans. First, strategic plan, which is broad based, and the second, the implementation or routine plan, that is short time plan, routine plan. Let's understand each of these in a broader perspective. Strategic plan first. Strategic plan is a planning process undertaken by the top level management to decide where the institution wants to reach in future and what should be done to pursue the institutional vision, mission and objectives. It is an analytical process which examines the micro and macro environment of an institution. A process to define the institution's vision, ambitions and the priorities to make a route that will lead to the institution towards a ultimate goal which it wants to achieve. The planning is not made for a particular department or unit, but it covers the entire institution. The strategic planning is done to determine the factors of the internal and external environment which directly influence the institution. Internal factors are mainly its strengths and weaknesses. External factors are defined in terms of STEEP, that is social environment, technological environment, economic environment, educational environment, environment in general, and political environment, that is called STEEP. And internal scan is done based on 4 P's, that is people, processes, products, and properties. This plan focuses on enduring development of the institution. That's the reason it is broad based and it is long term. Then the second part of the planning process is operational plan, which is needed to implement the strategic plan, because this is the plan which is to be implemented on a daily basis, day-to-day basis, routine basis. In this, the process which determines the day-to-day functioning of the organization, its implementation, day-to-day activities which are needed is defined. This planning is done to support the strategic planning to accomplish the institutional goals. In this process, short-run objectives of an institution are predetermined as well as means to achieve those objectives are also discovered. This is done by the middle level management. It includes planning of regular institutional activities and operations for a short period. Under this process, the institution is classified into various departments, divisions, units, and centers for which planning is performed individually, which is aligned with the strategic plan to reach the institutional VN. Unless these two types of plans are in line with each other, no plan can be successful, no implementation can be successful, no objective can be achieved. So the alignment of these two plans, strategic and operational plan, is a must, because the first one is a broad-based plan, is a long-term plan. Second is a routine plan, day-to-day plan, which has to be implemented for the success of the previous one. Some of the features which are important for the operational planning are: objectives of the institution need to be clearly defined. Unless the objectives are clearly defined, objectives are measurable, objectives are specific, objectives are achievable, objectives are retrievable, timely, no organization can move in the right direction. Then, achievement of desired results must be understood. The activities are to be performed as decided. Standards maintenance is a must. Unless we are able to maintain the quality standards for the implementation of any plan, no results can be achieved in the right direction. And finally, measurements of performance. It is said, what gets measured gets done. So measurement of performance is a must for the operational planning. Let's understand the basic difference between the two these plans, strategic and operational plan. First, it is based on the meaning. The planning for achievement of vision of the organization is called strategic planning. Operational planning, on the other hand, is the process of deciding in advance of what is to be done to achieve the technical objectives of the business of the institution. Time horizon: strategic plan is a long-term plan. On the other hand, operating plan or operational plan is a short-term plan. The approaches are again the different. In the case of strategic planning, scanning of the internal and external environment, means 4 P's and STEEP are important. In the case of operational planning, scanning of the only internal environment is a must. We should be knowing the strengths and weaknesses of the system in this operational planning, because it is to be implemented on a day-to-day basis. We need not know the environment in which the plan is to work. For that purpose, which the importance is in terms of strategic planning. Then the modifications can be done in the operational planning, which can be done on the day-to-day basis, because on the yearly basis, on the monthly basis, because if these changes are not done, we cannot be moving in the right direction. We should be knowing where the corrective action is to be taken, when it is to be taken. It is the requirement of the operational planning. But the strategic planning, as it is a broad-based planning, it lasts longer and much changes cannot be done on the day-to-day basis. The strategic planning has to be implemented and designed by the top management, whereas the operational planning has to be thought over by the middle level management. The scope is again the different. Strategic planning is broad-based, wide, and it covers the entire institution. The scope of the operational planning is narrow. It is done for a particular unit, department, or a project. Then emphasis in the strategic planning is on vision, mission, and objectives. In the case of operational planning, the emphasis is on routine activities of the institution. The tools required for strategic planning are SWOT analysis. It gives the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Then portfolio analysis, PEST analysis. PEST analysis means political, economic, social, technological, environment analysis. Porter's 5 analysis. This is mainly used in the business world, where we try to identify new entrants, rival sellers, or rivals in the educational system. Then substitute products or the services, bargaining power of our clients, then the bargaining power of the suppliers. These are the basic 5 fundamental forces which are being implemented in the institution or the organization, which impact its performance, and the analysis of this has to be done for the implementation of any strategic plan, for the form of any strategic plan. Then another type of tool is BCG matrix, that is called Boston Consulting Group matrix. These are the tools which have to be used for the formulation of the strategic plan and at a later date for the implementation of the strategic plan. How strategic planning and operational planning process works? It starts with the perspectives which we have to decide. Based on the perspectives, what we can be done, objectives are to be formulated. Based on the objective, strategy is to be formulated. This strategy is to be implemented in two terms. On one side, it has to be worked on operational performance basis. On the other side, it has to work on strategic goals. In the terms of strategic goals, it has to lead to strategic programs, budgets, which are a must. Unless we finalize these things in our strategic plan, we cannot implement the right strategic plan for the future. Then it leads to implementation of projects, and a strategic control is a must for the right direction of our strategic goals. And based on if we are not able to get the right implementation of the strategic plan, there are some lacunas, then corrective action has to be taken, and we move backwards to the strategic goal, re-improve it, and then again implement the process. On the other hand, for the operating performance, operating budgets have to be finalized, what is to be needed for training, HR, capital budgets, other budgets which are required for the implementation of the operational plan. This is implemented on units, departments, divisions. Again, the control is needed, corrective actions have to be taken, or sometimes if these are more, then redraft of the operating plan has to be done and again implemented till the time we get the right results. So let's understand the hierarchy of the organizations where these two types of plans are implemented. Strategic plan has to be made by the top management, top executives. They make the plan in terms of vision, mission, objectives of the institution. Then they also decide what type of strategies will be taken and how these strategies will be implemented. On the other hand, the operation plan is mainly implemented and developed by the middle level manager or first line managers. They understand and try to implement the strategic plan. They try to devise the policies, strategies for the implementation of the strategic plan on a day-to-day basis. So the coordination, alignment of these plans is a must. The coordination and alignment of the top management with the middle management and the first level managers is a must, because unless these are in alignment with each other, the organization, institution cannot grow in the right direction. This is all I wanted to deal about the two types of planning, strategic planning and the broad-based planning, that is called the strategic planning or the operational planning, routine planning. Summarizing, it is said planning can be done for anything. So in an educational institution, it can be done for various purposes, right from reaching the VN to its regular teaching learning activities. But their names, ways and planning techniques are different. Strategic planning and operational planning are two types of planning processes performed by the institutional managers and executives. Strategic plans are made to achieve the VN, mission, goals and objectives. On the other hand, operational plans are made to effectively perform the basic activities of the institution in order to achieve technical objectives. That's all for this session. Thank you very much.